So when I reread Animal Farm, I also wound up reading the introduction in the copy that I had, and that has very much sparked me to read further introductions of other books that so have them. And this book that I'm going to talk about today, I am very, very glad that I've continued to make this decision because reading the introduction tells you so much. I generally only read half of the introduction because most of it goes into some spoilery nonsense, sort of dissecting what happens in the book, and then sort of the author's connection to the book, how they came to know it and came to be the one writing the introduction. We Have Always Lived in the Castle by Shirley Jackson is a very short book. I actually chose to pick this up because I found it in one of the buildings on the property where I'm working, and couldn't say no because this is a beautiful, beautiful cover. This is a Penguin, I think Penguin USA Deluxe Edition Classic, and it's gorgeous. It's almost wraparound. The illustrations are beautiful. It's also very dark, but this is a very perfect summation of the book as a whole. Jonathan Lethem, the author of the introduction, always says that when he tells people about Shirley Jackson and how much she is his favorite author, they sort of look at him askance and say, "Who's Shirley Jackson?" And he goes, "You've probably read her." And I didn't think I had read her either until he wrote in the introduction that she is the author of The Lottery, which has been a highly publicized and criticized and critiqued short story. If you have not read it, I highly recommend it. It's very, very well written. Go look it up. It's called The Lottery. It's great. I definitely had to read it in high school, and it all came rushing back to me as soon as he said it in the introduction. This book, however, is just as dark as The Lottery and takes on a very different plot. This is Mary Catherine Blackwood and her cat Jonas, and this is her sister Constance here on the front cover, and they live, the two of them, with their uncle Julian in a house in a very small town. From what you understand in the very first two paragraphs of this book, Mary Catherine, or as they call her, Mary Cat, which I don't really like, so I will not be calling her that, Mary Catherine and her family of Blackwoods has lived there for a very, very, very long time, and the villagers sort of don't really like them. They have this sort of hatred and fear of them. It's this big house, this big castle-like house up on a hill, and they sort of seem better than everyone ever since their father locked the gates not too many years ago. I think the most important thing about Mary Catherine and about this book to know at the very beginning is what she says in the first two paragraphs, which is, "I dislike washing myself and dogs and noise. I like my sister Constance, Richard Plantagenet, and Amanita phalloides, the death cup mushroom. Everyone else in my family is dead." This book takes place about 6 years after the death of Mary Catherine and Constance's father, mother, aunt, and younger brother, all of whom died in a mysterious murder-type incident where Constance was blamed for it. Obviously, since she still lives with her sister, she has been acquitted, but the fact of the matter is that the town has never known who murdered all of these people, and this book is about how that they're coping with that. The plot is very formal sounding. They speak very formally. They don't own a telephone, and they are just generally very cloistered, closeted people, and throughout the novel you are introduced to more and more characters that come along, people from the town, relations of theirs that finally come to visit them after the death of their parents, and you find yourself asking over and over, who is the most sane, or is anyone sane? But I think that is the complexity behind this plot. It's a very dark complexity in that you can't quite figure out who actually has their head on their shoulders and who knows what's going on. The book evokes questions of why did this happen? Why did this person do something rather than how or who? And those why questions I don't think ever really get totally wrapped up. I think a lot of it is left to the reader. On top of that, I would characterize Mary Catherine as an unreliable narrator, but I'm not sure she really falls squarely in that camp. It's certainly what she seems like to me. Because she's the one narrating the story, and it's all from her perspective. She has these very vengeful thoughts throughout the whole book. At some point, she does talk about her hatred of the villagers and how she wishes they would all develop something like wood rot, and they would rot from the inside out and die, and she would go stepping along their bodies as she walked home with the groceries. And it's just very sort of profoundly graphic, I think, for someone who's had this sort of incident happen to her at this age and then shut herself away for so long and not want to accept any help from the outside world. I believe this is set in a time where technology isn't exactly a thing. One of the characters remarks that they don't even have a telephone. That's how sort of in the past they are and have remained ever since the incident. It occurred to me recently that I've been reading a lot of 3-star books and that they've all sort of been a little bit disappointing. If not disappointing, at least vaguely mediocre. This I did give 4 stars to. The fact that I found Mary Catherine rather unlikable and just frustratingly unlikable, actually, is definitely what took off that 5th star. But if you are looking for a very dark, very, I don't want to say thriller, because it's not really a thriller, but it's a short book. It's definitely a little bit creepy, but it's so well done. I can't even describe the writing style to you because it's so perfectly somber and well executed that I can't quite get my head around it. Her vivid descriptions of the inside of Mary Catherine's mind aren't descriptions because Mary Catherine is telling you about it, but they're just very, very nicely phrased. Shirley Jackson is an incredible author. If you're into that kind of thing, you will enjoy this book. 4 out of 5 stars, most certainly, and especially for, again, this great cover. That is all I have today. Thank you, as always, for watching. Anything you might want to know about us is probably in a link in the description. If you have read either The Lottery or We Have Always Lived in the Castle, please comment below. I would love to talk about it, especially The Lottery. It's just such a great dark story, which is not normally what I am drawn to, but every once in a while, that quality dark story it's a refreshing relief from what I have been reading. I hope you're having lovely weeks and lovely lives, and we will see you very, very soon.